Hey Transformers! Woo! Day number 3, you guys survived. This is actually really exciting. Is anybody like ready for this Friday? I'm gonna be at the pool. Haley gets out of school at 12, but I will be there, and it's so cute because she got her brand new swimsuit for the summer. So yes, she did. She actually, we chose it on Amazon, and it's like this little like brontosaurus with like goggles and stuff. So but I have, you'll know my kid because my kid has like the surfer kind of like outfit. It's not like a swimsuit because it's like, you got to protect yourself from the sun. So yeah, that's my little soapbox.
Especially here.
Yeah, no doubt. So, well, thank you so much. Again, for those of you who are just joining us today, don't forget to catch day number 1 and day number 2 because it's really important, because if you do it in sequence, then you're going to get rid of that bloating before you hit the swimming pool or wherever you're going for this weekend, which is supposed to be like 90 degrees, sunny and hot. Prepare. So, but I'm going to let Nicole just give us a little recap. Yesterday, I'll admit to you, it was really informative for me. I think I learned a lot personally, which was the point of this whole challenge. So, so what did we talk about yesterday?
Yesterday we talked about how processed foods can sometimes add to bloat if we're not choosing the correct type of foods, and how to do that. So we're all sticklers about looking at those nutrition labels, right? But we're sticklers about it for a reason. Because even we looked at, the tuna packet versus the can and noticed that even the tuna packet has more sodium than the can. And most people would assume that the can actually has more in it than the packet.
Yes.
And so we learned that it was, probably a difference of about 30 grams or milligrams, which is, not a lot. It's pretty minimal, but still. There are things that we didn't even know, like we learned about that yesterday because we looked at it, whereas like most people would be unsuspecting unless you're looking at that. So in that case, the tuna was a pretty low sodium type food, processed food, but when you're looking at like other foods, like canned foods, a lot of those are very, very high in sodium. Somewhere 10 times upwards of, like even 2,000 milligrams per serving.
Yikes, that's a lot.
Which is close to your upper limit, right? Which was the 2,300 milligrams a day, which is your limit for the day. Which is that
Kathy.
1 teaspoon. Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
And then looking at the sugar content. So the sugar content for women, the maximum for sugar per day is 25 grams, and men is 38.
And that's about, how many teaspoons would you say?
About 9. So 9 for men, and then 6 for women.
Eeks.
So
9 for men, 6 teaspoons. Hey, Margaret, thanks for joining us. 6 teaspoons of sugar a day is the allotted amount, and that's also for kids, because we talked about this yesterday, and like I said, what stresses me out in the morning is trying to figure out what to make for Haley in the morning, because you think like processed foods is just anything in a package, and well, the problem is that I don't have a lot of time to make her lunch. So what can I do? I'll admit to you, this kid has had strawberries every day since like August. Poor thing, but it's a pretty healthy thing. But
it's a lower GI index fruit, so
yes, and she loves berries, and but yeah. So the main point is that you gotta look past its appearance, look at the nutrition label, even go beyond and look at the ingredients. Hey, Amber, thanks for joining us. We're talking about like just making sure you keep your sodium level under 2,000 milligrams per day, and then that sugar, I know it's so hard, but that's 6 teaspoons a day. So what works for me is that don't drink your sugar. So that's like an easy sort of eliminator, but also like drink calories is where sugar gets kind of pushed in more than just food. So if you want kind of a gentle cutting out sugar but not putting yourself sort of in like a crash withdrawal, then just work on water, unsweetened iced tea. We talked about different like water, flavored waters, but again, you have to be careful if do they have like sugar substitutes. We talked about sugar alcohols, and like I said, even Propel has a I think it has like an artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So
those
basically,
can actually contribute to a little bit of bloat, water retention as well, because they're going to raise your insulin levels. Not all of them. Stevia is one of the ones that I really know of that really only passes through. So in your urine usually is how you excrete it. But all the other like sugar alcohols, for instance, and those, depending on how many grams are in per product, the manufacturer is actually required to put it underneath on the actual nutrition label, underneath the sugars. But if there's a certain, I want to say it's like 2 or 3 grams, they don't have to put it on there. So that's where looking at the ingredient list is what's going to get you. So anything that sounds sweet, that's kind of how I determine it. So like honey, anything that ends with an OL, which is that sugar alcohol. A lot of times you see the xylitol, sorbitol, erythritol.
Yep.
A lot of those are the most common ones that you'll see, but a lot of times, for the other sugar substitutes you might not be kind of aware of. But to me, everything that sounds sweet, that's kind of how I determine it. And if it's within those first 3 lines, you probably want to stay away from it.
Yeah, and be careful if it's also like that time of the month or 1 week prior, and you add on top too much sugar, too much salt. That's when you're feeling like, all right, you got like a food baby in there. I felt like I had a tuna baby yesterday, and it was just like a pop out of me. But I felt really bloated. But at the same time, I did get protein. I ate cucumbers, so I felt really good about my lunch. So all right, well, let's start with today's topic. Today is actually really cool because, like I said, we're taking you from a 30,000 foot view down to the very level of like in your face. What are probiotics? Why is your gut so important to your health? And one of the most important things is that you have good bacteria and bad bacteria living simultaneously in your gut. And for the most part, if you're feeling good and you're healthy, then there's a nice balance of both. But what happens is that you get a cold, you get put on antibiotics, you're stressed out and you're working, 12 plus hours a day, you don't sleep very well, you drink alcohol, etc., etc., etc. What happens is that bad bacteria start to grow, and I say they like to party. And what happens is that how are they going to invite their bad bacteria friends to keep growing in your gut? And believe it or not, they party with sugar. So your gut actually can send signals to you saying, I want something sweet. So sometimes in the middle of like at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon or late at night, when you have a sweets craving, believe it or not, it actually could be a signal from your gut. And it's so strong because guess what? That bad bacteria is like, come on, give me sweets, right? And so you try to like deny access, but then the bad bacteria is like, ooh, that's not cool. I'm going to give you a headache. I'm going to make you tired. I'm going to make you dizzy. I'm going to make you cranky. It literally creates this swirl of emotions to where you have no other choice but to grab that piece of chocolate or grab those crackers or whatnot. So believe it or not, those cravings are not just random. It could actually be a signal from your gut. So I'm going to let Nicole, because she actually did research. So we really want to tell you what are probiotics, how do they help, how do you know what's right to take, and how does that really affect your metabolism and weight loss?
So bigger picture probiotics, we actually have a diverse culture of microorganisms, actually all over our body, but specifically in our gut, with the most diversity and actually the most density in your colon. So they can have, they have synergistic effects with your body, but they can, like Dr. Tran said, negative or positive effects. There are about 1,000 different types of bacterial strains that we know of in your gut alone. They come from
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And they all have different benefits to them. So not all of them are doing the same things. They all actually also all work together. And what happens is when you become with like you're unbalanced, like Dr. Tran said, it can have negative effects to your health. It can affect your immune system, your mood. It can actually affect whether or not you are sleeping, actually.
Yep.
It's kind of very interesting. There's a lot of research that's come out within the last, I want to say, 3 years ish about this, and they're calling it the gut-brain axis.
Yep. I even went to a conference with this very well-known billionaire, but very intelligent gentleman who is doing research now and just thinking that your gut is your primary brain. Mm-hmm. But what made him so passionate about it is that your gut is causing a lot of disease to the level of even cancer. Yeah. So. Is that really the root that we need to start looking to that potentially is causing the mutations and causing cancer cells in our body?
Yeah, and so they actually have the ability, there's prebiotics that go along with probiotics, and the prebiotics are vegetables and fibers and things that we can't digest as humans, but the bacteria in your gut can. And so what happens is they create metabolites. They can create certain vitamins like B12 and other B vitamins for us, and those vitamins and those other metabolites can actually affect and make a signal up to your brain indirectly. So we have this blood-brain barrier, so that we can't really get through any, the gut bacteria can get through to our brain directly, but they can actually indirectly, stimulate neurotransmitters, even like hormones like serotonin, which is our good feel-good hormone, and GABA and acetylcholine. And so those are the hormones that are going to kind of like really affect your moods and those cravings that Dr. Tran was talking about. And so that's how they kind of get through and, have an effect on those. So it's through all these metabolites that they're doing it through.
So do you recommend everybody be on prebiotics as well, or are there just certain people with like certain health conditions and things like that?
So prebiotics are mostly considered like a fiber. Not all vegetables are in the class of a prebiotic. They have to have certain criteria to be considered a prebiotic. And I can actually post a list of that on after this live, but as long as you're kind of like eating with a colorful array of vegetables, and which we kind of talked about on Monday a little bit, is like getting in that one serving of the non-starchy, that list that I sent out to you guys, vegetables less likely to cause bloat in this case. As long as you're kind of like eating an array of those, you should be okay. With that. Yeah.
So let's talk about probiotics now. So when I go to the grocery store, you see like a whole like shelf of probiotics, and then you may ask someone at the Whole Foods or Vitamin Cottage or say, oh, this one has this strain and this one has this strain, and honestly I don't really know the difference. So can you comment on what probiotics should we be taking?
So you're probably mostly common with the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium.
Say that 3 times fast.
I could say lactobacillus maybe. Because those are what we usually see on the back of a yogurt container as the active live cultures. And Dannon actually has, I want to say it's lactobacillus, I'm not sure which strain it is. They have their own that's basically patented that they found.
Okay.
And they're required, yogurt companies are actually required to have those 2 main types on there, because those 2 have like the most diversity in our gut. But in general, when it comes down to supplements, there's an array of them. It's mostly those 2 that I talked about, but there are other few as well. But when you're looking at them, you don't want to just like pick any supplement. And the important part is remember that these are bacteria. These organisms are alive. So they have to be able to survive your gastric like enzymes and juices and, make their way through your GI system and your colon, or else they're kind of rendered useless. They have to be alive. And so 1, they need to be refrigerated, or 2, they should be encapsulated, which researchers have put a lot of research into that it actually does make them viable and that they are able to survive your GI transit. A lot of times we see these powders or these like supplements. The problem with supplements is that they're not regulated in our country, unfortunately. So we want to make sure we're choosing the right ones.
So would you say capsule is superior to yogurt? or maybe not necessarily? Is there a significant difference in how you take those probiotics?
And so that all kind of depends on, your specific, if you're a woman or kind of like what you're trying to target. There are different health benefits that you can target. And so we always think of like yogurt or, kefir or like kimchi and things like that.
What about kombucha?
Kombucha?
Kombucha. I don't know.
I think it's
tomato.
I don't know. Kombucha. Tomato.
I say tomato.
Kombucha, yes.
Yes.
Kombucha has probiotics in it. Yes.
Yes.
It's
So is it legit? Is it?
And so a lot of times what comes along with kombucha and those drinks is sugar.
Oh,
so
see, yes.
That's the problem with kombucha is that you're going to drink that whole drink, and usually they're pretty large, right? And then have a lot of sugar. In general, you can take it in a dietary source, but it also depends when you're trying to target something. Like, for instance, I bought a prenatal, which has Lactobacillus reuteri, which is one that is specific to women's health in it, as well as I think there's like 8 other strains in it.
And I think kefir, I thought, comes in like a milk form. So that's another thing. It's dairy.
It's kind of like a yogurt.
Yep. So if you have actually kind of like a dairy intolerance and may not know it, then that although you're contributing to it, we find that people who do kefir actually have some sort of slower weight loss and not even realizing that they're doing to that.
Food intolerance.
So we actually offer medical grade probiotics versus the probiotics that you get just randomly over the counter. So you want to kind of touch upon the stuff that we have here in the office?
So we have a Ultraflora Spectrum, and so that actually has 7 different types of bacterial strain. It has mainly the Lactobacillus. I believe there's about 4 different strains of that in the Bifidobacterium, as well as I think 2 others. And that is a proprietary blend, and so that is actually targeted to support your upper and lower GI as well as your immune system, so kind of like an overall whole of what you're getting. We have another one that's really great that women will benefit women. That's a women's Ultraflora that has the 2. It actually has the Lactobacillus reuteri that I mentioned earlier, as well as
that's a really good one for those of you who suffer from like yeast infections or again the really strong carb cravings. The women's Spiff specific brand, we've had a lot of good results for the patients that have purchased it. And don't worry, we'll post a link again in the Facebook group in case you are interested in a higher level. And we even have patients, if you have an advanced intestinal disease such as like Crohn's or inflammatory bowel, or some people suffer from irritable bowel syndrome, so you may have like some days you may have like constipation issues, sometimes you have diarrhea issues. I tell you, it's amazing the difference in these probiotics that can really help literally like balance everything out. 2
of the strains that are actually in that Ultraflora Spectrum were actually in part of the research that I did that actually helped with the irritable bowel disorders.
Oh, that's perfect. Yep. And then immunity. My mom and I are taking it, and like I said, I have a 3-year-old, so she's got germs all over the place, right? So, trying to fight off a cold every single week when she comes home is tell you I need like a, that little mask. It's like a Mars outfit, right? So, but last but not least, what we want to kind of touch upon is that, again, number one, you got to get your gut health in order. But I had briefly mentioned about food intolerances. Now, we have a blood test called the ALCAT Food Sensitivity Panel, which has been really helpful to me. Just to kind of give you a little bit of background, I was a chronic headache sufferer. It was very interesting. It was probably, I don't know, maybe like 2 years before Haley was born. I had headaches that were triggered by weather. Now, if you guys have the same problem, give me some likes and hearts here. You're just like me. Like if I was like watching the weatherman, I tell you, I would have like a headache that would actually last for days. And then whether it was an abrupt change in, like it was going to rain or hail or even snow, it was really hard. It almost felt like kind of like a migraine. So it kind of like, it could actually like shut me down. I hate headaches for the passion, I tell you. So honestly, I was just living with ibuprofen at the time. But what happened is that when I became pregnant with Haley, my headaches were gone. And I was like, what the heck? What's that all about? And so then I started to explore. Something changed. Obviously, when you're pregnant, your body is no longer your body, and there's hormones all over the place. And then I was like headache free. But then when I delivered her, I had the recurrence of the headaches, and so that I became a detective, and I was like, wow, what the heck's going on? So I did a food sensitivity panel, and what it does is it identifies foods that you react to, and it categorizes it into severe, moderate, and mild. Thankfully, I only had 2 in the severe, but I had a long list in the moderate category, including chicken, which broke my heart, and some other common things that I was eating frequently. I kid you not, I started to eliminate a good portion of my moderate category, headache free. I tell you, it's been amazing, the change, simply because I changed the way that I ate. And a lot of you guys do that blindly. A lot of you guys kind of know that you react to foods, but the ALCAT really is nice to kind of like actually specifically identify what you're reacting to. So we highly recommend the food intolerances. Again, if you're, for example, we talked about dairy. If you're responding to dairy, or
unless you do that elimination, you're not really aware of what you could really feel like without that food.
Yeah, or something random, like I had a patient who was responding to cumin, and that was part of her culture. They ate cumin all the time. Boom, we changed it. Health. Inflammation was less. She had more energy. It was pretty insightful. So so if you have food intolerances, come check us out and check this ALCAT blood test. It's a super easy test, and it will help you really be more strategic in, again, getting that gut health back in order. So, but well, thanks for joining us. Today was really fun. Like I said, Kathy says, daily headaches in teens. I tell you, I know. I really think that's a food sensitivity thing, and what happens is that your gut system starts to kind of be a little leaky. So, come on in or give me a call, and we can work through those and see what we can do to help you. But that's a great comment, great question. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys learned a lot. I certainly learned a lot. Like I said, a probiotic's not just a probiotic. So you really need to kind of look at the strains, look at your conditions, see what you want to improve, and then combine that with a food intolerance. And I tell you, a healthy gut is a healthy brain, healthy body, right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow we're going to, we'll announce again when we'll be on Facebook Live again, but we're going to do another wrap up and get you guys ready for Friday and the beginning of summer. So hope you guys are excited. Hope you guys are doing great. And do me a favor, if you happen to be at the grocery store, take a picture of a probiotic over the counter so we can see the different kinds. Just take a picture of the label itself and let us know what kind of strains there are in that, so that you can teach everybody in the group.
And there's so many of them. So.
Yes, there's a ton. So you'll get bonus points if you pop a whole bunch of pictures. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. And don't forget to post any questions along the way. We'll be happy to answer them. We'll see you soon.
Bye.